previously in Kanab.
Okay, so I came back and it is sunny out and we are not chasing a storm. It is blue skies everywhere. Yeah, let's go.
We actually just got done airing down our tires. Ryan and I decided to go ahead because it took them a lot longer to air down their tires than us. We have quick deflate air valve stems, so it's like literally 1 minute, we're done. So him and I go cruise ahead to try finding a really epic campsite. On the map, it shows Lake Powell. There's a trail close by to catch the sunset. And so we took that trail, just the two of us. The three of them went to another spot that if this one didn't work out, we would meet there.
There we go. Nikki, come up here.
Coming.
When we were going through there, though, the water, it showed that it was right here. We got to the end of the road, and at the end of the road, it was dry as a bone, like bone dry. And so there was a trail that a bunch of people kind of took to keep going. So we kept taking that trail. That trail wound up going through like 8-foot marsh grass. And as we were driving through the marsh grass, I was like, well, I'll be fine as long as I have, I watch my temp gauge to make sure that it's not plugging up my radiator. I'll be fine. So we were going through that, both of us. The thing's taller than this Jeep. This is the actual Jeep we were in. It was like 8-foot tall grass. And as we're going, we're just mowing it down. Went for probably a good 100 yards throughout this whole entire like swamp, basically. I mean, but it's a dry swamp. And then finally made it to the riverbed that we were looking for to make it up to where they were on top of the mountain to get that to the main road. Well, obviously, in the video that you're seeing now, that's the only video footage we have because it was so traumatic and we were in such a big hurry that he caught me. And as I got out of the marsh grass, and thank God I was out of the marsh grass, because that'd have been an even bigger can of worms. But we're in the middle of the river basin that you can see. I stopped. And when I stopped, that's when all hell broke loose.
All right, how are we looking on your map here?
Still see tire tracks.
Do you?
Yeah, to the right.
What do you want it to look like?
It smells like fire. Oh, Scott, you're on
Stop,
sparks,
you're on
sparks,
fire. There's something on your truck.
sparks.
On your Jeep. Sparks. Brush.
Oh, I knew I smelled something.
Yeah, brush underneath.
All right, well, this part is definitely a little bit tough for us because it was so traumatic.
Jamie yelled for you to stop.
Yeah, they're like, man, like a few seconds earlier, they're like, oh, I smell a fire, weird, and then nothing, and then all of a sudden, 5 seconds later, they're like, Scott, stop, and I thought I was prepared. I had my fire extinguisher. I had it mounted right under my feet. Like it could not get any closer to me. It was in between my legs. So in my head, I'm like, okay, a fire. Thank God I'm prepared. Like I really try to prep and prepare for everything on our trips and over prepare. And so in this instance, he said it, I got out, I looked. The minute I got out, grabbed the fire extinguisher. For anybody that doesn't know, fire extinguishers aren't meant to do everything. And so this fire extinguisher that I had was meant for automotive use, which is chemicals, fuel, and electrical. It's not made for grass fires or construction materials or household fires. And so the minute I tried extinguishing the fire, as you can see in the video, it got bigger and blew me away. The minute that it didn't go out, Allison was in the passenger seat. Kenzie was in the backseat, our dog. And so first things is get out. And we didn't get to video any of it, so I apologize, but obviously you know why. But then I also have the propane tank that you see sitting on the back of here. Next thing is chuck that thing pretty much as far as I could throw it, chucked it because I didn't want any chances of it exploding. And then I had a 4-gallon jerry can of water in the back. Started out with that. Tried to get it up into the skid plates because the skid plates is where all the grass started on fire. Actually, it got caught on the catalytic converter and started on fire. Never would have thought of that. We're from Midwest, really, and so we're not used to that kind of stuff around here. It's not that dry.
It's always wet.
Yeah, and so I'm not used to that. Apparently, I am now, but at the time, I was trying to get the water up into the skid plates. I used all 4 gallons of my jerry can. We were just like chucking it up there because it's in a big can, obviously. And then Ryan had an extra jerry can. And then I think we had like 5 or 6 bottles of water. I finally was able to squeeze those up into there, got the fire out. We had some Gatorades, and it was a matter of like seconds, obviously. But then we had some Gatorades left, and right out of the front corner of the hood here by the antenna to the right of main squeeze, right out of the crease of the hood, flames started coming out after that fire was out, just out of the blue. Well, turns out the electrical that was going from front to back caught on fire as well. And so then we had 4 Gatorade bottles left, popped the hood, and we seriously got it out with the last few Gatorade bottles we had. So there was Gatorade. But one of the definitely the scariest times of my life. The minute we got everything settled down, the first thing I went for is my Garmin InReach, and thank God I had it because that was our only source of communication at the time because we were so far apart. And so I just sent out a quick text, Jeep started on fire, we are all okay. And that's how I left it. And then I wanted to try centering the coordinates, and that's when as soon as they got that, they started coming backwards. And it was tough finding each other after that. So, like I said, though, the big thing is not traveling alone and having that communication, because they would have known nothing's wrong. They'd have sat there all night until we would have seen it. So having that was huge.
We got Ryan on the radio, but they can't hear us.
Let's keep going forward then.
Yeah.
Nothing like finding a needle in a haystack out here.
We were probably it ended up taking us about 3 hours to get from where we were to the main road.
I'm just gonna go straight.
Yeah, just go straight.
I wonder if they got up to that gate and turn around or something.
Ryan, you got a copy? I think they're starting to hear us now.
Hey, Ashley, I can hear me?
Hey, I can hear you. Where are you?
Stop, Ryan, stop.
Yeah, we unhooked the batteries and everything, so this way there was no chance of it actually reigniting. I was actually worried about it reigniting because I'm like, if it reignites, we're done. I have no way to put the fire out. Everything we have is gone. So we unhooked everything. I had no power steering with 40-inch tires, trying to tow it behind his Jeep to get out.
I saw flames. I was scared. I wasn't scared. I wasn't scared that there was flames. Because I didn't want to get trapped inside the Jeep. So I just jumped out, and I ran as fast as I could and as far as I could until I thought it was good, and then I looked behind me and I was fine. It was like after I knew everything was okay, I was fine.
Yeah.
I was fine. But when everyone when I didn't know if everyone was okay, I was scared.
Yeah.
Well, when I ran as far as I could.
Yeah. When you jumped out, where did you run to? Did you
No,
run
I just
over?
ran out like this. So let's say this is the Jeep.
Yeah.
And this is me. Like this.
You just ran straight out?
Yeah.
Okay.
But kind of at the wheel, but then.
Yeah. Okay. And then Jamie called you over by her?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And she gave me a tissue.
That's great.
Then I put Allison and Kenzie in the back of Ryan's Jeep, and on the way out I rode solo, but with the windows down just because it was so suffocating with the smell of smoke.
Hold on, Ryan. Is it being empty? Okay, thank God you did. Just perfect. Holy cow. That was looking bad. That would hurt a little bit. Alright, keep going, bud. The little Jeep that good. A little squatted Jeep. A little squatted 600 Jeep.
Max, we were doing about 15 miles an hour and about 25 miles from the nearest public road.
I'm gonna have to flush my eye to out again. It freaking hurts. Debris or something in there.
Or while I was actually trying to get the fire out, somewhere in there, the smoke, either the smoke or some debris from the brush, I guess if you want to say, must have got in my eye, and my left eye was just like burning sensation in my eye, and the whole way out I was pretty much driving with one eye closed because it just hurt so bad. So that the minute we got out, we spent about 10 minutes just solidly flushing my eye out. By the time we got done doing that, it actually felt better, but it still wasn't 100%. It was really sore. So the part of that, the next day we ended up going and getting some eye drops, and that seemed like a eye drop steroid, and it actually seemed to help out quite a bit.
Yeah.
But once we got done there doing that, I went and talked to the tow truck driver, and he said in the 5 to 6 years that he's been doing this, that we were very, very fortunate we got this out, because he said in all the years he's never had one actually drive out or like on wheels. Every one of them's burned to the ground and been carnage, like just
a pile of
scrap.
rubble.
Yeah. So he said he's like, this is the first one I ever got out here on a tow truck, like, and it actually looks like a Jeep. He said 3 months prior to that he did a call. He got a call from Lake Powell that the sheriff's department was out there apparently, and that they had that's just what I heard. But he said that one, within 1 minute that the flames got engulfed, went to go get his fire extinguisher. By the time he even got that, it was so engulfed that it burned to the ground and it was done. And so they actually had to go recover it out from Lake Powell. And by the time he said he got it, it was just metal frame on the ground, and they had to drag it up the trailer. So I can't tell you how grateful I am that we got the fire out.
You're lucky.
Yeah, very lucky. I mean, overall, it probably wasn't the smartest idea safety-wise, but I was pretty determined to get that fire out because of how much money I have invested into this thing and time.
Yep.
Along with, I drove across the country to get the top that's on this thing. It's one of 27 in the country, and it is number 27. It's the last one that came off the assembly line. I talked to the manufacturer, and they produce a different model of it, not specifically this one anymore, but it's irreplaceable. So from there, I wanted to get this fire out because my kids love sleeping in it. It's a large 4-person tent on a Jeep Wrangler. So you just don't get them.
No.
But it's just amazing. So I was pretty dedicated to get it done. We did. I got it out. Looking back though, after we got the body off of this thing and got back to the shop, turns out the electrical from the back to front started on fire and also melted the fuel line coming up, and that's actually where the fire went up through the hood. It was actually a fuel leak.
That's right underneath where Allison was sitting initially.
Yes.
And then
right where my head was. Like when I was underneath trying to get the fire out underneath the skid plates, my head was right underneath that. So I can't even say how lucky we are to be here to even talk about it. It was pretty emotional when I pulled the cab off and the mechanic looked at it and said,
you wouldn't even be there for the cab to come off. I sat there and all the guys were sitting there, and I broke down in tears. Just because of how melted everything was
It
underneath.
was charred, and you'll see some pictures here shortly. We'll throw some pictures. We have some video footage, but you'll see a bunch of pictures of the whole wreck as we're talking about this, of all the damage that was once we got the body off and everything else. I mean, it was substantial overall, but hey, we got it back, rebuilt it in less than 3 months, I think is when I got it rebuilt in.
Yep,
And
really
then
hard.
we got it done about a week before our next trip.
Yep.
And didn't even test drive it. Threw it on the trailer and drove, and we put 3,300 miles on it right after that trip. And that trip, we can't wait to share that one with you. We got more coming up.
Yep.
That one is by far probably one of the most
amazing.
epic trips we've done so far. So you guys will get to see that shortly too.
Yep.
But like I said, we just didn't give up at all. We had great friends that helped us along the way. So thank you to everybody that helped us and was pushing us to keep moving. The next day, we got back to the RV that night at 1 a.m., 2, 3, something like that. It was really late.
Really late.
All of us slept in, got back to the RV. The next morning, it was daylight. We assessed the damage of the Jeep and everything like that. And I just happened to wipe the dash here before just to kind of show how much soot and everything is in here, but this is all the gear that we had in here at the time.
Pulled stuff out.
Pulled everything out, aired everything up, opened up the tent, opened up our sleeping bags, all of our pillows, everything, opened it up. Everything smelled pretty bad. Got that all figured out, what we were saving, what we weren't saving.
Yep.
And then from there, we did a group discussion and said, let's move forward. Like, we wanted to camp 4 days out of the rigs and away from base camp, which is our RVs. And so we made the decision to rent a Jeep Gladiator with a rooftop tent.
We were still going to stick to that plan.
Yeah.
Granted, we had to detour a little bit, but we still were going to keep the plan.
A couple days later, instead of when we were doing it, but at the end, we went and rented this Jeep Gladiator. Didn't have no V8 in it, didn't have 40s on it, wasn't built like mine. I mean, it wasn't the greatest thing, but I told the guy before we rented it, I'm going off-road with it, and it's gonna get used. And he's like, well, keep the scratches to a minimum. And I said, it shouldn't be a problem.
Yep.
So awesome gentleman there, but we got to continue on with the trip and loaded our stuff in there. We weren't very organized, but man, we made the most of it. We had some really cool campsites. And as you're gonna see coming up too in the future video, that we still had a great trip. I'm glad we followed through with it and didn't quit.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm definitely grateful for our friends for pushing us to keep moving.
I was pretty upset.
Yeah.
Like,
We were ready to go home.
I was ready to go home. I mean, a total loss, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, I just burned down my Jeep. So it was pretty tough pill to swallow, but at that moment, what else are you gonna do? I mean, it is what it is. It happened, and so we just move on and do something else. So we did that, and by far was the best decision to keep going. And that's kind of what our philosophy is now too. I mean, if something happens, work through it and keep moving on.
We just pivot and keep going.
Keep going. So you'll get to see some more footage coming up here. I hope you guys are excited to see it as much as we are. It was a really great trip, and there's plenty more to come. Nice.